The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendon all, he said he could make it.
Don't think this whole Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do well what he has to. He is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-vim.
No, my life from Rashad Mendon.
Right, you go. I'm a tag jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. Commissioner Stubbs back again as always, and once again as always, we have the co-host Chris Leach. How's it going, Chris?
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, all right, thank you. It's we're now into the weird bit of the year where it's sort of 4 in the afternoon. It's getting dark. It's getting cold. It's but the LOC's hotting up. So yeah.
Oh yeah, the weather gets colder, but the LOC and the NFL seasons heat up just to combat that. You're absolutely right. And we are obviously officially in November now. We are firmly in the second half of the LOC regular season. And what better way to kick that off by reviewing last week's marquee matchup, which featured the winless Tyrants against Call of Duty. Oh, and that's a nightmare because my phone is still connected to my Alexa downstairs, so we're not going to get much jingle action with that being the case, are we? So now we go to Tom Tyrants against Call of Duty. Tom Tyrants faced off against Call of Duty last week, searching for their first win. Call of Duty were in a similar boat, having only picked up their first couple in the last month as well. But it's happened. It's finally happened. Start climbing the street poles, ladies and gentlemen, because Tom's Tyrants do have a win. They took this one over Ross, a division rival, 95-75, moving Tom's Tyrants to 1-7 and actually bringing them still in the playoff race with the division. We'll see what else happened in the other Winchester division game later, but that does drop Call of Duty to 2-6, who are also very much still in the playoff race despite losing 2 on the trot. Looking down the lineups, Tom Brady got 19 on Thursday night, and Mike Evans got 12. He was helped out by Brandon Oak, who got 14, Miles Sanders, who got 14 as well, and the Titans D with 16, rounding out that team, 95. On the other side of the ball for Ross's team, Kirk Cousins got 27, Cooper Kupp got 15, and the special teams combined for 10 apiece. Ryan Suckup and the Pats D. No other skill position over 5.5 points. It was a winnable game, you would say, but obviously Ross's team could not claim it. So they lose this one, and the history of this matchup all time. Tom's Tyrants are now 6-6 all time against Ross, so they leveled the series. And could this first win finally what breaks the shackles for Tom's Tyrants and potentially see them make a comeback to win the division?
I'm not going to go quite as far as saying that. They have every chance. With the let's shall we say poor quality of that division, because I think that's probably what it should be right now. But yes, this is showing signs of life. There was a little bit of sign of a life in week 7. There's a win this week with a very good point score. And generally speaking, quite a good point score across the board as well. It wasn't massively heavy on anybody. Good days from Brady, Evans, Miles Sanders, who knew, Brandon Ayuk, different guy. That's it. And that is going to be a high-powered offense now. That 49ers offense. I'm looking forward to seeing how that beats teams, because it just seems as though one component, well, in fact, 2 components, if you include the quarterback, has turned it from looking very average in the first 3 weeks to looking extremely good. Yeah. And yes, the Titans D, which doesn't need a great deal to beat the Houston Texans because they suck. It's it. All round very good. Though, some a little bit banged up guys now. Jonathan Taylor is banged up again. Yep. Mike Evans a bit banged up. So it's the win might have come, but at some cost to Tom. On the other side, yes, Ross's score is okay, but that's it. The special teams and kicker are doing reasonably well, and Kirk Cousins bailing them out of the hole. Otherwise, it would be pretty embarrassing loss. Those skill positions, not good. Not good. We've seen them go off, but those are not good this week. And a reasonably head-scratching decision to sit DK Metcalf as well, which is, again, another thing that's contributed to the lack of points, if not made that much of a difference as it was. So, yes, good for Tom. Finally, the monkey's off his back. He's won a game. And yes, there is still an outside chance that he could yet win that division. And judging by other results this week, he yet might.
Indeed, yeah. I think there's maybe 3 more divisional games still to go to the end of the season. So yeah, I mean, as long as he takes those scalps, all 3 of those, if he takes all 3 of those, that puts him in a very good stead to be able to make a comeback there. And depending, obviously, the results in the out of division games. But yeah, Ross's day could have been better, like you said. Potentially playing Metcalf, who was obviously looked quite dicey earlier in the week with the patella tendon injury he suffered, but miraculously was able to come back straight away. Yeah, you get 11 points right there for Robert Woods. You got to think he'd play him over him, and then you probably look to Mark Andrews, who got injured in that Thursday night game and was obviously quite injured entering it as well, as probably what else cost Ross this game. There was obviously no direct replacement on the bench who he would have played over him, which would have got him the win, but yeah, he himself may have done that. So so Tom gets the final win. That's it. No more winless or undefeated teams in the LOC now. So going back to the debate corner, it was Ben that would lose the 0 first was the answer to that one. And we both picked Tom this week, or last week I should say. Not only that, I locked Tom, locking an 0-7 team, and it came through. Not often you would see that happening, but it happened on this occasion. So we'll go to the other Winchester Division game now, which featured, at the time, division leading Palestine against UR Gold. The 3-4 Palestine side took on the 2-5 UR Gold side. Could Palestine open up a bit of a lead in the division, or would UR Gold throw it into utter chaos? Well, it's the LOC, it's fantasy football, so of course the answer is chaos, because UR Gold did win this one 88 to 60 points. Moving them to 3-5, same record as Pakistan now. Pat may still have this division on points. We'll see when we get to that section later. Yeah, this division is firmly all to play for still with that result. Looking down the lineup, so for UR Gold, Matt Stafford returned to the lineup for them. He got 19 points. Maybe the QB curse is over for them. Tyler Boyd got 10. Dalvin Cook got 20. Aaron Jones got 16 en route to that. 88 points, but it was obviously enough to beat Pakistan, who they played Jimmy Garoppolo and he got 22. He had a decent day. Justin Jefferson got 10 and Younghoe Koo got 14. But the highest player behind that was the Colts D with 6 points. No other player scoring more than 4.2. So a disappointing outing there for Pakistan with the 60 points. The history of this matchup all time now, Pakistan are... let's see here, 2-7 against UR Gold, so UR Gold firmly a bogey team for them, and really the Winchester Division truly could go in any direction now, as obviously Tom's Tyrants is only 2 games behind, and we have 6 games to go? Yeah, 6 games to go, so really it's still wide open, I would say.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop backing Pat, I think, just because it is the absolute curse. I mean, look at that. Awful.
It doesn't make sense that team does that poorly. You look at a guy like, I mean, let's get this out of the way first. That Raiders game was just plain weird. Maybe Devontae Adams still suffering, the after effects of he had that flu, but I mean, it's pretty bizarre what happened. Justin Jefferson has an okay day, but obviously he's Pat's first round pick, a guy that he relies on. And Eno Benjamin as well, practically being the lead running back for the Cardinals at the moment. He has a poor day as well. So yeah, it was just an unfortunate day for Pat, really. But like you say, it always seems to be this way with Pat's team.
It does seem to be that way. So he just falls off a cliff, and I know he's got a couple of guys on bye. Well, again, just now on bye, and Corderell's out and Zeke's out.
Yeah.
But look, there's enough to get you across the line there, but I mean, obviously not in name value there. And yeah, it's a disappointing day. I think Younghoe Koo has bailed him out of what could be a minus 60-point week, which we don't see that very often.
Mm-hmm.
As on the other side, it's not unbelievably good anyway. I have to say for UR Gold, he's definitely relied on Cook and Jones to get him across the line. Stafford has been poor to average all year. Receivers are they are what they are. I don't really understand that. With Pittman, Cooks, and Boyd, sit 2 on reasonably garbage offenses, 1 on the periphery, and then the kicker in D still playing the Bears D there. I mean, he's been the Bears have been all right this year, but I mean against Dallas, they got absolutely ran over. So.
They're one of those defenses that they're a good NFL defense, but not necessarily one you want for fantasy. I think it's fair to say.
I think that we. I mean, I think that
they've had some good fantasy days, but yeah, like you say, going against an optimal offense, it's certainly not one you want to stick with.
Not ideal, but look, scraping by 87 points, good win. That's what you'd expect from that division. It's going to be a bit low scoring. See on the bench there are some options.
The bench outscored Pakistan in this game 61.54 points. just to point that out, and that was 4 players as well. Might I add?
So yes, that shows how bad a week it was for Pat. So look, it's one to scrape off. That division's up for grabs. I think that there's going to be a very, very small margin in it. But none of the teams are stellar, as proven by this game.
Yep, no, complete fair assessment. I don't think we can add any more of that at that time. So we'll just go on to the next game, which featured Portsmouth Division teams. Gridiron Gang took on Bedetonators in Week 8. Gridiron Gang entered the week leading the division on points over Forge Flyers. Bedetonators were only 1 game back, though, up 4-3 versus Gridiron Gang's 5-2. And Bedetonators, they just dropped a boatload of points. Gridiron Gang walking into a proverbial buzzsaw as they lost this one 152, which was I think maybe the season high weekly points, was obviously this week's highest points, to 85. Not often you see a team nearly double the opponent's score when they score 85. That's nearly what happened here. So starting with Bedetonators, it was a good day, pretty well, actually not all around, but like there was lots of really good bits. So Gino Smithy got 23 points, DeAndre Hopkins got 22 points, Derrick Henry, I believe his 4th consecutive game with 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Texans with 35 points, Dante Foreman for the Panthers with 32 points, Travis Etienne with 22 points in London, and just to round it off, the Cowboys D with 13. Who cares that Daniel Carson got 0 points when you score 152 without your kicker? On the other side of the board for Gridiron Gang, not a terrible day off at the office, obviously could have been better with the 85. Josh Allen got 22, Terry McLaurin got 11, Kenneth Walker got 11, and the special teams, Tyler Bass got 10 and Eagles D got 16, but obviously nothing close to the Detonators, so they dropped this one. They fall to 5-3, but Detonators climbed to 5-3 and actually stepped ahead ever so slightly of Gridiron Gang on points, and we'll see what happened in the 45s game in a bit. What's gone on in that division, but the history of this matchup all time, but Detonators are now 12-5 against Gridiron Gang. So yeah, pretty good day for Bedetonators, I think it's fair to say.
I would say so. That's it. Just a moment.
It's okay, yeah, so I'll cover off Bedetonators just while Chris has to step away there. Yeah, so, I mean, I very much got the sense of how this game was going to go. Me and Chris both picked Bedetonators to win this one by the bye, so we were bang on right with that. I did not predict him, however, to go off quite this much. I don't think Ollie did either, based on our messages on the night. But yeah, I knew how it was going when I was in London, sat watching the Jags versus Denver game, seeing just Travis Etienne absolutely rack up the yardage, and then get the touchdown in the 4th quarter just to start it off. And to be honest, I felt like that was a sign of things to come. I didn't think it would to be quite this level. DeAndre Hopkins, he continued his impressive return after he obviously joined back with the team mid-season. 22 points on the day, just the focal point of that offense, stepping into Marquise Brown's shoes. And then Dante Foreman, that was the one that stung for me because I completely accepted he would have a decent day for the Panthers. But yeah, to rack up 32 points on a day where Chuba Hubbard, who Bedetonators also owns, doesn't play, that obviously allows that to happen. But he basically combined for nearly all of the Panthers' touchdowns there. And then Derrick Henry with that 35 as well. Just a tremendous day. Everything almost going right. I mean, Olave only got 5 and Daniel Carson got 0. But yeah, just a great day for Bedetonators, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Oh, unbelievable. I think that this is the team in form at the moment. It's quite clear. But I mean, to see some of these really cushy matchups happen at this time is ideal for him. Yeah, because comparison to where he started. But yeah, I mean, fair play. Sticking with Etienne, picking up Foreman, drafting Hopkins and having him on the in the reserve spot for all that time. You know, there's lots to focus on here, and as you say, if you can carry a player and still scoring 52 points, that's a mark of a great team. He's moved off the quarterback. He's gone with Gino. He's got Justin Fields on the bench, who appears to be so. You know, there's a bit of signs of life there. So I think this is one to look out for going forward. But you know, just it's not a terrible week from your team, in comparison to other teams that we've seen so far. But yeah, just completely blown out of the water. Say solid from Josh Allen, resurgent from McLaurin. I'm glad that for your sake, the Heineke's in there. But say Kenneth Walker doing Kenneth Walker kind of things again, which is say so far seems to be worth the investment. And strong from kicker and D. But yeah, just not a lot behind that. Sadly, obviously a lot of bye weeks.
Yeah, bye weeks and injuries on my bench. I literally did not have another playable player, so that is the lowest. I think that's the lowest points I've scored so far this season. So compared to other teams, I'll take that. And when you go up against a team that scores 152, it kind of stings when you actually have a good week. Okay, we've got the point system for the playoff, but talking about the individual matchup, I don't mind losing and scoring 85 points. So you know what I mean. So yeah, absolutely. So we'll switch over to the Southampton division before we go on to the other Portsmouth division game. And this one was a juicy Southampton division matchup because the still winless. In fact, I was wrong in what I said earlier because the undefeated Ixan team took on Bare Necessities, but they got their first loss of the season. So it was the same time as Tom Tyrants got first win. Excuse me. How poetic. They dropped it to Bare Necessities, who were the highest scoring team entering this game at 4-3. Looking to keep up in the division, and they have made it a bit more interesting with this 107-99 point victory. Looking down Ben Necessity's team, Lamar Jackson got 26 points in Thursday Night Football. AJ Brown blew up for 3 touchdowns en route to 34 points. Leonard Fournette got 12. Damien Pierce got 11. So yeah, a good day at the office for them. And on the other side of the board for Ixan, they got away with one against Tom's Tyrants the week before. They did have a better outing this day, and they would have beaten a fair amount of teams in the league to their credit, but 99 not enough in this particular game. Daniel Jones sort of cost them here. They only got 8 points. Tyler Lockett got 10. Amari Cooper got 17. Marvin Gordon got 11 in London. Christian McCaffrey doing the trifecta, throwing, catching, and running in a touchdown for 33 points. So that's the 99 for them. So yeah, Daniel Jones really costing them here. So Ixan 4-7-1. Bare Necessities moved to 5-3, and their history against Ixan now 5-12, still in favour of Ixan. And I think I mentioned it last week. If I was Ben, I'd be going and picking up Andy Dalton. You were a bit more hesitant playing the Daniel Jones, but I think if he'd have gone Andy Dalton, he would have won this one. Yes, actually, and interestingly, Ben has actually got a step ahead of this, and he's put out a statement. That's it. And he says, whilst the Jones situation was unfortunate, and obviously is unfortunate, there was no way that he would have changed that before the game. However, the one thing that he would have done, and he was agonising over, was Damien Harris and Antonio Gibson. And after everything that he'd read, everyone was saying that she shouldn't play Antonio Gibson, so didn't. Yep. And that's what cost him the game. So, and he's right. He would have won by mere yards once again, had he have done that. And yes, I think that the possibly the right play. On paper would have been the Harris one. I mean, Gibson seems to have been a bit resurgent as a receiver recently out of the backfield. It's weird. He's kind of almost benefited from being told you're not the starting running back anymore, but still getting played and good usage. Is kind of almost feels like it's freed him up to just use him in his best spots. Exactly. It seems that way. So I think that we're going to see a bit more of him perhaps in the team going forward. But yeah, these teams really were fire with fire here. You're right. The quarterback is definitely cost Ben, there's no doubt. And the key player in each team, I would say, is obviously McCaffrey on one side and AJ Brown on the other, and they've offset. So yeah, there's not a great deal in it. The skill positions, I think, probably slightly better for Ben. But again, Ben Necessity put up a big score with a consistent score with some big time players. You know what you're going to get from them. I just like the way this team's set up because each and every week it's not the same guys that are necessarily producing, but they've all got quite a high floor, as Ben's team do, in fairness. So yeah, I think he knows where the game was lost. This is by no means going to set him back because he's absolutely on a streak still. And yeah, with the quarterback coming back, if that was a Patrick Mahomes type week, it would have been another win. But hey, Ben Necessity got across the line there by putting up a great score once again. Very, very impressive.
absolutely one of the teams to beat. In fact, both these teams are. But yeah, just this week, say just a little bit of coach nuancing and saying it's top Ben the week.
Yeah, absolutely. We both picked my dad to win in this one as well. So if you're keeping score so far, we've only dropped the Patastanu, our gold game. So 3-1 on the week so far. So we'll go to the other Southampton division game, which featured Buckingham Trent against Neapolitans. With Ixan's loss, bucking the trend with a win would draw within one of being with the division leading record. Meanwhile, Neapolitans entering at 2-5, very much looking to just keep the season alive. And to be fair to them, they've done it. They got a win, 104-82, moving them to 3-5, dropping bucking the trend to 5-3. Looking down the lineups, Jalen Hurts had a good day for them, 36 points. Tyreek Hill, 20 points. T. Higgins, 11. Ramondre Stevenson, 14. And the Jets D, finally they went away from the Dolphins. And they got 104 points combined from all those guys and a few others, so a good day for them. On the other side of the board for bucking the trend, Tua got 35 points and Saquon Barkley got 12. No other players over 10, however, so a disappointing day for them. Still 82 points though, so not awful, but they lost an opportunity here to maybe take a step forward in the division or make things more interesting anyway. The history of this matchup all time, Neapolitans are now 2-1 against bucking the trend, and maybe who knows, maybe the Southampton division is going to become a bit of an interesting playoff race again, with all four teams seemingly showing some life signs.
Definitely reeling them in. First of all, can we just say, is Tua probably the best Mr. Irrelevant we've ever had?
Probably.
I think
I think so.
That's it. So serious value there from the draft, but aside from that, look, it's a really poor day for Mike. Aside from Tua's points and Saquon Barkley continues to produce for them. Everyone else in single digits, including the defense. Not a good day all round. Nothing really on the bench to write home about. You'd never play Romeo Dobbs against the Bills away.
No.
All round pretty disappointing. Unfortunately, it seems as though this team's full of guys who are on poor offenses that just seem to be all right for fantasy purposes. You look at Swift and some Brown for the Lions, who've just taken a dive recently.
Mm-hmm.
Deontay Johnson, who does stand to gain now that Chase Claypool's been traded, and Josh Jacobs, who's on that just anemic Raiders offense. They're either going to go through him or nothing's going to happen at all. So not great, and not a great position to find yourself in at this stage, especially with limited bench space. But let's talk about the Neapolitans and how they won this game. Jalen Hurts has been a stud all year, as has Tyreek. T. Higgins is kind of replaying that second round faith.
Mm-hmm.
So he's only put up 3 double-digit games this year, but again, knocking around it, he's had a couple of 9-pointers as well, so not too bad. But Ramondre Stevenson, I think, is a great pickup. Or I think he was even drafted.
He did. Yep.
He's ascended into that offense. He's the number one guy. All of that, is through yards alone. There's no touchdowns in a 14-point game. That's what you love to see at this stage. And there's even depth on the bench as well. So I think all round Dave's got a lot to be excited about. And let's not forget his 104 points. He carried a player as well as kicker.
Yep.
Another one that's finding form at just about the right time. He's a couple of wins behind. So it's sort of getting into the playoff talk. I think with the way that some teams are going, there's every chance that these teams that are on 3 and 5, and even below, if you count Tom's team, can find some form and get themselves into a position. We've seen this time and time again, where we've had close finishes for the last 3 or 4 years,
yep.
And I think that we're going to see exactly the same thing again in certain divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to bucking the trend, obviously Mike's team's had some very good days so far this season, and Jacobs, Barkley, as you said, Tua, really good draft picks there. But it just seems to be health is really what's killing them at the moment, because Keenan Allen, they've been practically carrying him all season. DeAndre Swift has kind of come out today and said he's not going to be 100% for the entire season since he kind of suffered those early season injuries. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy that keeps getting nicked up as well. So yeah, that's kind of really what's stung them of late. But to Mike's losses, obviously Neapolitan's gain, and we both picked Neapolitans to win in this one, so we are 4-1 on the week so far, Chris. So we'll go to the last game, which did feature your team in the other Portsmouth division game. Forge Flyers took on the Dream Team here. With the Gridiron Gang loss, Forge Flyers had an opportunity, if they won this one, to take sole possession of the division. Meanwhile, the Dream Team, after having a few resurgent weeks, looking to kind of pull themselves back into the playoff race. And to be fair, they had a really good day with the 114 points, but it's all for naught when the Forge Flyers on the other side score 141, which miraculously was not the high score on the week, as we know. But very good day still. Kyler Murray got 30 points, Jalen Warner got 23, Latavius Murray got 12 in London, Alvin Kamara got 34 with his first touchdowns of the season. He got 3 of them to boot, and Nick Chubb as well getting 24 points. So very impressive, 141 points there. For the Dream Team as well, a good day despite the loss. Joe Burrow with the loss of Jamar Chase only got 17 points, but Stephon Diggs got 16. DJ Moore with PJ Walker has now shown signs of life. He got 22. Tony Pollard starting in place of Zeke as well, showing what he can do with the starting job. He got 33 points, and Jason Myers got 11. Gus Edwards did get injured in the game as well, but obviously wouldn't have made a difference. So the Dream Team 4-3-5, now 3 games back in the division, and Forge Flyers take sole position of the Portsmouth division, winning 2 on the trot, moving to 6-2. Their history of this matchup all time, Forge Flyers are now 7-7 against the Dream Team, so they tie the series. Very good day for your team, Chris. Very impressive.
Yeah, we always have a good game, me and Viv, and it was an extremely decent game. I think at one point I thought to myself, it's going to be a high-scoring loss, and then Nick Chubb did his thing on Monday Night Football and took it across the line, as it were. It's extremely impressive. I'm really impressed with the 3 running backs in there this week. Latavius Murray spent a bit of waiver budget on, and he's come up with a couple of touchdowns in a couple of weeks, which is good. Kamara finally showed his first round pedigree, and Chubb, who I still can't believe I got in the second round. That's it, doing what he's been doing all year. So plus a little bit of Waddle, who is not playing second fiddle. I know it was a soft matchup, but certainly not playing second fiddle there. And Kyler Murray, who I keep saying is frustrating beyond belief, but with a stat line like that, I take the frustration. It's just a bit. It's obviously we're one player short. Cortland Sutton in there who hasn't produced with. Say we talk about anemic offenses. That is one of them. They're certainly choosing to run the ball rather than. Sorry to Cortland Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Judy got his touchdown on Viv's bench, so I guess I'm kind of pleased about that. As for Viv. A very, very good week still. 114 points is good yield. We've seen weeks gone by where Burrow has been the cornerstone of this team. He wasn't this week, but let's talk about Tony Pollard for a bit, who absolutely was. He went nuclear, but unfortunately wasn't able to get across the line, I suppose, or get Viv across the line despite his heroic effort there.
Mm-hmm.
3 touchdowns on the day. How about that? And DJ Moore. DJ Moore at the end, I thought to myself, wow, this is going to be the week for Viv. Talk about Hail Marys at the end of that game. Wow. That's it. But, he got so excited that it cost him the game ultimately, didn't they? So
interesting subplot on that. Apparently, by the rule, he was not actually on the field when he took his helmet off, because you'll recall the scene. He obviously caught the ball in the end zone, walked behind the goalpost, then took the helmet off, so apparently that shouldn't have actually been a flag. Still, I think you're right, you can't do that if you DJ Moore, put your team in that position and take the risk, but technically it shouldn't have been a flag. And as we know, Eddie Pinheiro did have a very makeable field goal in overtime and blew that as well, so it's not all on him. But
that's true. But for fantasy purposes, excellent week. But unfortunate for Viv that he lost him there. It's good points goes towards the league tally, I suppose. So it's not all lost for him. Still at 3-5, but plenty of potential in that division. it's going to be difficult for him now. But I think with the way that his team's set up, I think he's the second highest scoring team in the league. So he's just got to keep scoring points as he is.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, for sure. So just to tie it off the pick, so you locked yourself in this game, so 100% right. So 1 week for you, and we both got our locks. I did pick the dream team, so I had 4 and 2. So all time, I'm 39-34 on the pick'em. You are 39-21, so you've got a pretty good clip. And then on the locks, I'm 6 and 7. You're 7 and 4. So there we go. We kind of know what we're talking about. More so Chris than I. We'll go on to the league news now. And starting off the league news, as we normally do, with injuries. Again, a few notable ones this week. So we had Rashad Bateman. He obviously injured his foot again. It's a Liz Frank injury now, as it turns out, and he's going to have surgery and miss the rest of the year for Tom's Tyrants. We both thought that was a pretty good pickup for Tom after Ollie, we thought, kind of perplexingly dropped him for Devin Duvernay. But yeah, just as Tom's getting back on his feet, it's annoying to lose a player.
Yeah, I mean, Ollie appears to be the seance of all of the league this year. So he seems to predict when guys are going to get injured. So yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate. I think with a guy who is almost certainly was due for lots of volume and decent form, just bad timing.
Yeah, absolutely. For Gridiron Gang, Michael Thomas, who obviously injured his toe back in week 3, has not played since. He is now going to have surgery and be put on IR and likely miss the rest of the season. Classic Michael Thomas, trying to heal things without surgery and then realising, oh yeah, need the surgery anyway. Yeah,
that's mega unfortunate for both you and for the Saints. For a guy who's got massive talent, he may well go down as one of those guys who was elite for one season and then just succumb to injury, like Todd Gurley, for example. Just a sad way. Hasn't really shown what he can do for a couple of years, and a team that really needs him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he'll be crying into his dollar bills over the missed opportunity. Yeah. Next, so Keenan Allen. So he has, of course, missed quite a bit of time with a hamstring, which he re-injured not only once but twice now, it appears, for bucking the trend. He's obviously been carrying him all season long. Really not what bucking the trend needs. He could really do with his third round pick back.
Not at all. I said just looking for players right now, and yeah, absolutely rotten luck. And for a guy like Keenan Allen, who would be a surefire fantasy stud, yeah, it's
especially with Mike Williams out now as well.
Exactly that. So yeah, just think of the points, but. It's been a season-long thing. And the problem with season-long things is they tend not to resolve themselves quickly, even mid-season. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see him up to any sort of fighting strength this year.
Well, yeah, he's already kind of spoken out and said now that I think it was quite clear when he was coming back, it still wasn't 100% all the way there, which is obviously hamstrings do have that high re-injury risk. So now he's basically said, I'm not coming back until I'm going to be completely 100%. So, like you say, does that mean we see him again in the fantasy season or not? Hard to tell right now. And then another one, Jonathan Taylor, who again has been kind of in and out with injuries. He injured his ankle again in the game on Sunday for Tom's Tyrants. So once again, Tom's Tyrants having a bad rub of luck on the injury front.
Yeah, very, very bad luck. And just, yeah, that's the last thing you need, your first round pick going down at this stage of the season. When you're showing a few signs of life.
Yeah, completely. Just one interesting transaction that I picked out this week. So again, seemingly another perplexing drop for me. You are gold, obviously not flush with good players, but they choose to drop George Kittle. In fact, I will just go back and tell you who they decided to add in favour of George Kittle. TJ Hawkinson, who obviously got traded in the NFL to the Vikings from the Lions. So he chose to drop him, and Pat, he decided to claim him for $0, but added him for Allen Robinson. Again, a really weird one for me. I don't know why Ollie's dropped George Kittle, just as he's had his 3 best games the last 3 weeks. But it's a great ad for Pat, but I think... What do you think?
Yeah, I'm much the same. I think the 49ers obviously have a lot of offensive talent. And maybe that's part of the thinking. But actually, when you consider big body receivers or anyone who can be a red zone target, George Kittle's your man. Jimmy G's never been one to be one on the deep ball. I think the way that they're set up is almost certainly George Kittle friendly, and he seems to be getting into his best form and coming out of the bye where he can sort of be refreshed and rejuvenated. I think that is a questionable one. We've seen what TJ Hawkinson can do with the Lions, but going into a new offense at this time of the year.
One that has Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and KJ Osborne.
Exactly that. High end, and it's arguably not as much of a offensive identity yet. I suppose is definitely a big risk. So yeah, I think that one. We'll see how it plays out, but George Kittle for me is the better player in the better offense, and that's why I would have kept him.
Yeah, and I kind of like you were touching on. He started off the year. He obviously came into the season a bit injured. I think he might have even missed week 1. And then, as you say, it took a few weeks to get his feet under him. But yeah, he's been the George Kittle of old the last few weeks. So, but as you said earlier, with Ollie being a seance, maybe he's foreseeing something that all of us are not. So I suppose we'll find out on that one. We'll go on to the milestone standings and stats then. So starting off with the standings, we'll take it division by division, then give you a bit of a playoff picture because we are approaching that time, of course. So Southampton division, yeah, Ixan still at the top despite losing their first game of the season. Still 2 games ahead of the rest of the division. Ben Estes pulling to second place now. They're 5-3 level with bucking the trend, but have the points advantage, and they still do have the highest points forward in the league, just about. And then the Boltons at the bottom there at 3-5. So yeah, the division maybe is an uphill struggle, but they could potentially still maybe make a push for the wildcard spot. Portsmouth division has a new leader. Forge Flyers hold it now all on their own, 6-2. But Adelaide is moving to second place with 4 more points than Gridiron Gang, both at 5-3, and then the Dream Team at the bottom here as well at 3-5. But they do have the second highest most points scored in the league. And then the Winchester division, utter chaos. Pakistan is leading this, tied leading this, but has it on points. At 3-5 over You Are Gold. Call of Duty, Ross's team is at 2-6 just behind, and yet Tom's Tyrants picks up their first of the win. Win of the season, 1-7 now, so only 2 games behind in the division. If you're talking playoffs, so Ixan, Forge Flyers, and Pakistan are the 3 division leaders at the moment. Bare Necessities would be the traditional wild card, having the best record and then obviously on points. And then the Dream Team, despite that 3-5 record, would currently hold the points forward wild card with 8-4. So that's how that looks at the moment. Looking at the breakdown, Bare Necessities return to the top here, and the Dream Team as well. It just goes to show they've had a 31-2 record over the last 3 weeks. So they really have been very resurgent, and obviously quite unfortunate to lose last week as well. Gridiron Gang fall back to third. Then you have the middle ground, but the middle ground's actually pretty good. They're all fairly over 500, but Ixan, Forge Flyers as well. Pretty good record so far. But then you get to the bottom, usual suspects. You Are Gold on the bottom, despite tied lead for a division. Tom only just ahead, and everyone you'd expect there. In terms of coach rankings, I don't think there's been a great amount of change on this front. So we'll just Pakistan left quite a few points there on the bench last week as we saw, which would have been the difference, but it would have been unfair to attribute that to their loss. You put that all together, and again, the true ranking is a pretty forever reflection of how things are at the moment. Looking at milestones, so we have a couple. Coach Henderson has notched their 10th career and regular season win, so congrats Dave for getting to the 10, and Coach Sherwood notches their 75th regular season loss. We also have a tie at the all-time wins again at 107 with you drawing level with Ben Chris. So that is the standings and stats. Trade block, Brian Robinson is on the trade block for Gridiron Gang, so if you would be interested in him, reach out to me to discuss a trade. Check the power rankings when they land. We did not have a power rankings. We did not have a power rankings last week, but hopefully we'll see that come back this week. So just before we go into the week 9 previews then, John is telling me he would like us to go into debate corner now, so who are we to argue?
Order.
Thank you, John. And debate corner for this week is not a binary option. Well, not necessarily a binary option, but you can look at it what way you want to look at it. So, debate corner for this week. What will the worst non-Winchester division playoff record be? So, in seasons past, typically 8 wins would normally be enough to get you the wild card, potentially the division lead. Last year, I think, was the first time we saw a 7-win team make the playoffs, and that was by way of winning the division with a 7-7 record on points. I exclude the Winchester division from this because, as we saw from last week's debate corner, the winner of this division could very much have a losing record, so that kind of defeated the point. But it was more geared towards all the other teams because, there is a lot of wins sloshing about between the Southampton and the Portsmouth division. Obviously, only one of those teams can win it, and then that leads you to say, well, the teams behind them, someone's going to be very upset, or a few people are, because they're going to have a pretty good record by the looks of it, but potentially miss out. So yeah, what will the worst non-Winchester division playoff record be, Chris?
Well, I think that the Viv's team is a very interesting one for me because it is so boom and bust, like it's just crazy team that it could well be come season's end, the team that loses a lot of games but will end up scoring a lot of points. So, and you look at the points against him. So, at the moment he's on 3 and 5. Now we say we've got 4 games left, or 6 games left. Now let's say he wins half of those. Well, that's only 6 wins. That's as many as I've got. That's as many as Ben's got. And that's assuming that Ben Necessity's bucking the trend, and your team and Ollie's team wins again this season. It's a fair estimate. So, yeah, I think it could be 6 wins. It could be something very weird like that, where you have a lot of teams on good points totals, decent wins totals, but a team like Viv's, which is set up to score points, but not necessarily win weeks because all those points don't all come at once. It could well be that. I'm really looking out for that team this year and thinking to myself, well, if the division winners stay as they are, and I'm not sure that they will, because I think Ollie's team's on a real roll, then it's going to be, I think, Ben Necessities will be in there as probably the general wildcard unless Ben falls off a cliff. Ollie's team, whoever wins the Winchester division, or whoever doesn't, more to the point, and then a mixture of Viv or you. Obviously, you're only 20 points behind him. So yeah, I'm really interested to see if that team can continue that sort of trend.
Well, see, I think for the Dream Team, I think they fall off the pace here a bit because they've had a very good last 3 weeks, and obviously last week was a good week as well. But I think losing Jamar Chase, obviously from having him as a player himself, is big for the Dream Team. Also big for Joe Burrow, and Tony Pollard had, I think, well, he had a great week, obviously. But that's not going to be the case. When Zeke comes back, he's going to go back to his tandem role. He's not going to have that big a week. I don't think the Dream Team is going to be able to punch quite as high as they have done the last few weeks for the rest of the season. And then going to the more normal wild card, which is probably, I guess, what the debate corner was more good at. But you're right to include the points forward one. You know, I think, as I say, typically for the wildcard, it's usually 8 or 9 wins. I think we could genuinely see a 10-win team get the wildcard this year with the way things are going. I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibility.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you consider that, I think in all the divisions, no matter where you are, I think even the Napolitans have got a shot at getting up there again. They could still get to 9 wins if everything goes well for them.
Yeah.
But they can certainly play a big part in bringing other teams down.
Yeah.
And as a result, give that wild card to the Portsmouth division.
Yeah.
That Portsmouth division is feisty. That's going to be definitely where some big swings are going to be made. But yeah, looking at that now, that's not inconceivable that everyone can end up on the same, or at least very close to the same record. We've seen that before.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, yeah, so just before we move on to the Week 9 previews, my camera is frozen, so I'm just going to deactivate and reactivate that. That usually messes up the stream quickly, so I'm just going to do that, so apologies for a brief... Hello, Chris? We're all good. Camera's back again, so hopefully it doesn't stick again. I'll just leave it if it does. So yeah, we'll go on to the Week 9 previews now. So for this Week 9, we are going out of the divisions again. We have Gridiron Gang against Pakistan, the Dream Team against Bare Necessities, Tom's Tyrants against Napolitans, Call of Duty against Ixan, Bucking the Trend against Forge Flyers, which is the Gold Star Bowl, and You Are Gold against Spedetinates, which is the Ollie Bowl. Chris, where do you want to go with the marquee matchup this week?
Well, there are a couple of bowl games in there, but actually the one that interests me the most are the two highest scoring teams in the league, which are the Dream Team and Bare Necessities. So let's go with that.
That seems like a logical marquee matchup to me. So yeah, here we go then. Week 9 marquee matchup: the Dream Team against Bare Necessities. The Dream Team take on Bare Necessities in Week 9 of the LOC 2022 season, and this week's marquee matchup featuring the two highest scoring teams in the league, as Chris just said, which is Bare Necessities with the highest points at the moment and Dream Team right behind them. As we just said in the standing section, by way of the playoff race, both these teams would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. And in this game particularly, Bare Necessities projected to have 81-point win, and they also have 26 points on the board. So let's see what's going on here. So for Bare Necessities, they did have AJ Brown and Damian Pierce in the Thursday night game. They got 12 points and 14 points respectively, en route to that 26. And in terms of lineup changes, Austin Eckler comes into the lineup back from his bye. I believe that is the only change for them, sending, I think, probably Devin Singletary to the bench. On the other side of the ball, before we go on, sorry, so Bare Necessities are going with 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 receivers, Wishbone. On the other side of the board for the Dream Team, Marcus Valdes-Scantling comes into the lineup, as does Darrell Henderson in favour of Tony Pollard, who goes on to bye, and I'm not sure who else they were playing last week. They may have now been cut from the team, but they are going with the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities are 10-9 against the Dream Team, so it's a close one. Chris, do you believe the projections in thinking this game is as one-sided as it looks on paper?
It's certainly got all the hallmarks of it, I have to say, because you have to look at what Bare Necessities have done already. There's 25 points on the board through, albeit two of their key skill positions. Pierce has been excellent all year, and we've seen what AJ Brown did last week. Albeit, in a soft matchup there, would you expect more than 59 yards and a touchdown? Maybe, but there's lots to come. Whenever you've got Lamar in the team, fireworks can happen. Godwin's been consistent but not unbelievable, and the Rams have been down recently, but their defense is still okay. And I think that yardage wise, he's definitely getting it, but absolutely no touchdowns. So that's a question mark. Leonard Fournette, I think, will be. There's a lot of plays gone through him in recent weeks, but it has been a bit topsy turvy, albeit 3 double-digit point scoring weeks in the last 4 would probably suggest otherwise. Austin Eckler somehow ended up on the injury report for this week.
I can cover that one off now. So it was a precautionary. He was tagged with an abdomen injury, just something that happened in practice, but nothing serious, very minor by the sounds of things. So he should be fine. Good.
And again, against Atlanta, it's ideal. Bearing in mind they've got very few people to throw to this week, you'd like to think they're going to see a lot of the ball. Seahawks playing Arizona. You just don't know with Kyler Murray. He can either stripe you or you can stripe him. But what you do know is that he's good for interceptions. He's good for sacks, and that's what you like for your fantasy defense. So again, a solid core with 2 solid points scored already. Once you look to Viv's team, and I have to say, this is one of the great boom and bust teams of recent times. And so you just look at Joe Burrow. You're right; it looks a bit bereft without Jamar Chase. Though you have to say that he is still a quality quarterback. They're going to throw a lot. Playing Carolina, who showing signs of life, but are still a poor team.
Good D though.
Good D, yeah. All right, that's it. That's it. But Atlanta did stripe them last week, so they were well and truly in the game. So I think that Joe Burrow is certainly a better quarterback than Marcus Mariota. I know that the game plan was slightly different for Atlanta, but still, Carolina were exposed last week, and I think that will show a lot to them. Diggs against the Jets, we like that. I think DJ Moore against Cincinnati, provided they just keep throwing the ball to him, so he's going to get plenty of volume.
Mm-hmm.
PJ Walker just seems to not care. Just seems to be just chucking it up and seeing what happens. Well, for as long as that happens, the two running backs. That's it. Now Edwards has always got a question mark over him. I haven't seen anything from today. He did not practice yesterday. They were obviously on the Monday night game. It's looking dicey at the moment, and the worst thing for them, he doesn't have anyone on the bench currently who he can bring in. Exactly. It's a big risk. And Henderson versus Tampa, who are still, they're keeping games low scoring. Henderson hasn't really done a great deal. Obviously, the Bills versus the Jets as well. But the one, including I want to touch on this week, for the Ultimate Boom and Bust team, he's picked up the Ultimate Boom and Bust player, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, in the team against Tennessee. That's it. I'm expecting big things from this. If this isn't meant to be for this team this year, then I don't know what is.
They got Kadarius Toney now, though. One more mouth to feed in that passing offense.
That's true, and we'll come to that later.
Oh, we will.
But I still think Benesessi is going to win this game. They have shown consistently this year that they have a very, very high floor indeed. I trust all of their players to score points, including their defense and kicker. And with 25 points on the board already, that gives them an extremely good chance of winning. On the other side, Viv is going to have to hope that things go absolutely mad. These receivers just get all the touches, and that Gus Edwards doesn't get injured. And if Gus Edwards does get injured, then he is mega fucked. So I'm going to dream team.
Yeah, you're going back. Don't worry, I already wrote down you were going back necessities. That's fine. I'm actually going to lock bare necessities. Use my lock nice and early again, like I did last week. Just because I just don't see it for the Dream Team this week. I can see them having a decent day, but I think that's about as much upside as I can see because, as you say, I think a lot of things need to go right for them to have a good week or a really good week. And compared to bare necessities, 26 points in the bank. You already mentioned it about Eckler. They've got enough players there that they could just get some chunk, points here and there and bring it home. You mentioned about Durando Henderson. I was just mute myself periodically when you're covering him. There's something called a Ronnie Rivers that's taking work away from him. So I think that's all you need to know about the players Viv is playing this week, along with potentially a player who won't play in Gus Edwards and MVS. So easy pick for Benesessis for me. So injury wise, Gus Edwards very iffy at the moment with a hamstring injury for Monday Night Football. Rogers questionable. He's obviously been dealing with a thumb issue, but he'll play through that. Mike Williams has been ruled out with the high ankle sprain he suffered before their bye. Jamar Chase is obviously out with that hip injury. And on the other side of the board, Austin Eckler just with that abdominal issue, but he should be absolutely fine to play. So we'll go on to our next game then, which is Tom's Tyrants against Napolitans. The 1-7 Tom's Tyrants face off against the 3-5 Napolitans, but somehow Tom's Tyrants are closer to the playoff race than Napolitans are at the moment. But the projections, as of this moment, say that Napolitans are going to keep in the race a bit more. 90-72. We'll see why in a second. There has been some points on both sides here as well. 23 points by Napolitans against Tom's Tyrants 15. Tom obviously picked up his first win of the week last week, but that may be short-lived. So for Napolitans, Jalen Hurts already got 23 points in the Thursday night game, and then elsewhere in the lineup, Juju Smith-Schuster comes in back from the bye. I think that is the only change, sending Najee Harris to the bench, who goes on to bye. So they are going with the 10 personnel this week spread. 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Tom's Tyrants, they've got some work to do as they have Brandon Oak, who's on a bye at the moment in the lineup, and their kicker and defense is vacant as well. So once those get changed, that could potentially swing the projections in favour of Tom's Tyrants. They also got 15 points from Miles Sanders. So that's that, and so obviously lineup is to be determined for them at the moment. The history of this matchup all time, Tom's Tyrants are 1-0. They've only played each other once, but Tom got the win between them. Can Tom make it 2 in a row, Chris?
It's going to be very difficult. It's setting an uphill sled for him now. There's a lot players that aren't in his team right now. So Brandon Ayuk sort of biased. I'm going to assume that he's not playing. I'm also going to assume Jonathan Taylor in this instance isn't going to play because he doesn't seem as though he's healthy enough to play.
Yeah, didn't practice yesterday, I don't think, or the day before. So he would need at least a limited today, you would think, to be able to play on Sunday.
Yeah, so even then, I think that he's going to be limited, and he's playing New England.
In New England. Yeah.
In New England. So there's lots of things not to like there. So yeah, let's assume that, for example, of the players that he's got on his bench, Rondale Moore's playing, Drake London is playing. Yeah, that's the two, isn't it? Yes, Drake London and Rondale Moore are playing, and the Packers D's playing. He's not playing with a kicker yet. So then let's address the kicker thing. Drop J.K. Dobbins, pick up a kicker. Done.
Yeah.
He's not coming back. You can forget about him.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, Mike Evans is banged up. He's playing LA. I don't care if they're playing at home. It's going to be a difficult one for Brady without his clear-cut number one target to be able to rip apart the LA Rams defense without that. He's not been in great form. They're going to want to get hold of him. The guy's looking 45. The guy's looking divorced. I mean, it's time to...
I actually think Brady himself hasn't looked that bad. I think it's just the Bucs are that much worse, and they've got a defense that's not allowing them to take leads and hold on to leads in game. Watching Brady, he looks fine to me, to my eyes. He doesn't look like he's dropped much of a level, if at all. But it's just everything around him is taking a big step back, which... Yeah.
But I don't know. I think you get to a certain point, you think of, is it time? Is it time to do something different? And maybe this is a good out for other things that are happening in his life, but there's just not enough name value in there. I know Rondale was playing in Seattle and he had a good week last week, but aside from that, every single time somebody plays him, they lose. Drake London's playing the Chargers. Aside from 2 weeks that were excellent, and that's where he scored touchdowns, and it's not really happened for him. I don't know, man. It's not so good here for Tom. I think that it's a bit of bye week and injury mess is not helping him.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst on the other side, the Napolitans are pretty much full strength. Higgins set to get plenty of volume. Smith-Schuster maybe for the last time is going to get excellent volume. He's been well used in the last couple of weeks previous to the bye. Christian Kirk, again, playing the anemic Raiders defense. I like it. And then Ramondre Stevenson, who's been getting plenty of carries, whether it be on the ground, through the air as a receiver. Dolphins playing Chicago. Yeah, Chicago looked much better recently, and they've got to go up there, of course. But yeah, Justin Fields is still a rookie, and I think that they can cash in there. It's funny they went from the Jets D last week and pick up the Dolphins again. There must be something they like about the Dolphins D.
It paid off for him. I didn't cover that. He actually messaged me before he did that, saying, I'm going away from the Dolphins here because you said about it on the pod. It worked that particular week, and with this, how Justin Fields and the Bears have looked this week, I'd be staying away from them, quite frankly.
I think that they're not worth it. I think Justin Fields has got a great chance of striking the Dolphins this week. So yeah, I like the Napolitans just because of the fact that they are much more settled and they've got their guys and we know what they're about. Whilst with Tom, this could be a complete disaster this week. It really could, and especially if Taylor and Evans aren't active, it's a real shit show.
Yeah, so just to confirm, Taylor is not practicing today either, so he will almost certainly be ruled out of the game. So unless our Tom has just added Deion Jackson, so at least he's got a plug-and-play replacement. We know Deion Jackson isn't Jonathan Taylor, but he's going to be the bell cow, you would think, so especially with Nyheim Hines being traded to the Bills. And yeah, Evans' ankle, he did practice, so he should play. Elsewhere injury-wise, yeah, you're already covered off about J.K. Dobbins and Napolitan's clean bill of health, other than Jahan Dotson, who got ruled out with his hamstring injury. But no, I'm going with you. I'm taking Napolitans this week. The 23 points is a reasonable start. again, he's got Smith-Schuster and Kirk. You don't really know what you're going to get with those guys. And the Dolphins, I want to see them gone again. But the other guys, you figure should have a decent enough day. And yeah, Tom Tyrants, despite coming off their first win, still on spotty ground. I could see them winning this game, potentially still. But I think I agree with you. Napolitans. Look, Brady could have an okay day. Evans could do enough. Mostert's been actually pretty good as the lead running back for the Dolphins, and they traded Chase Edmonds, let's not forget, so he's got more of a stranglehold on that team. Deion Jackson's going up against a not great New England running defense in New England. What's he got? What did he go with? Packers against Detroit? There's some measure there potentially. I don't think it's 100% Napolitans. This Napolitans team, right? Do you want to? Other than last week, Napolitans have not been a star. Let's not forget. Going into last week, they were 2-5, so it's not like they've been lighting the world on fire as well. So whereas Napolitans weekly scoring, so they have topped 100 points twice, and only gone over 90 points a couple more times as well. So I don't think it's as one-sided as you think it is, but I am going to take Napolitans to win it. So.
I'm glad that sense has prevailed.
I was never saying I would pick Tom, but I'm just saying I could still see a Tom's Tyrants win. We'll go on to the next game, which probably isn't going to be as contentious, between Call of Duty and Ixan. Coming off their first loss of the season, the 7-1 Ixan Southampton division leading side will be looking to get back on the win bus against the 2-6 Call of Duty, who have dropped 2 since they won their first 2 of the season. But Ross's team is projected to win this one, 90-83. So let's take a look at the lineups for Ross's team. I think they are unchanged at the moment. So still rolling with the 11 personnel, 1 running back, a tight end, and 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Ixan, Josh Reynolds comes in, James Conner comes in, Antonio Gibson comes in, and I think Tyler Lockett comes in as well in favour of Marvin Gordon, Amari Cooper, Christian McCaffrey, who are all on bye. It's bye apocalypse for Ben's team this week. So Ben is going with, at the moment, the 30 personnel, 3 running backs and 2 receivers. The history of this matchup all the time, Ixan are 6-5 against Ross's team. Ben has some. Both these teams have some injury worries. Yeah, you're looking perplexed with the record history in that one.
How is he 6-5 against Ross?
There you go.
This is allegedly the all-time top scoring, winning team of the entire league. Look, this is perhaps why Ben's got a real problem this week. Because yes, most of his team are on like the team that you would expect him to pick week in, week out. McCaffrey, Cooper, Gordon, Debo, and the like are all on bye. And the replacements that he's brought in are not fit. I mean, you look at Reynolds not fit, Connor not fit, Harris not fit. This could be a complete shit show, like from the start. This could be just like a surrender game. Because if he ends up playing Mahomes, Lockett, Gibson, Tucker, and the Ravens are still winning, I might as well just give this up. I might as well, because that's what we're facing right now. Don't get me wrong. Harris even then isn't ideal. Connor would get plenty of touches, no doubt, and Reynolds would be the second receiver in there for sure. Yeah. But again, Detroit have not looked good recently, so yeah, this is definitely questionable on all levels from Ben.
Yeah.
Whilst Ross, he's got the breadth of his team from last week still there. You think about what he's got. Cousins is playing Washington in the time frame that he likes. Good. Cooper Kupp's is banged up, but he's. I
think he should play. It was just a low ankle sprain. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to get plenty of volume. Much the same with Andrews. He sat out with that shoulder injury yesterday, but even so, if he plays, he's going to get. Besides, he's on Monday Night Football as well, so he's got more time to recover. Robert Woods against KC, I don't like it, but he's the only guy who's viable to throw to, and let's hope Tannehill's back, because otherwise you're going to see a hell of a lot of Derrick Henry once again. Montgomery against Miami gives them a good defensive matchup. Gabe Davis against the Jets gives them a good defensive matchup. And the Patriots are going to absolutely eat Sam Ellinger for breakfast. So I just don't see it for Ben this week. I really don't, especially even if those guys were playing, which they probably won't, or at least 2 or 3 of them probably won't.
Yeah.
I think Ross has got this in the bag. I said he's going to have to run. And one hell of a performance from Patrick Mahomes to make this work.
Yeah, and that's it. I have a bit of pause with this as well because, like you say, XN have been so good. Their fall's been so good. They've got Mahomes back from bye, who I didn't cover in the lineups as well. Apologies. It feels weird picking against them, but like you say, it just doesn't look good this week. And Ben doesn't even really have. I mean, he could put Naheem Hines in, but who knows what he would even be doing in his first game after being traded to the Bills. He's very limited at what he can even do to correct the lineup because other than Josh Reynolds, I don't think they're guys you necessarily want to drop. So yeah, he is definitely between a rock and a hard place. Ross is as well for different reasons. It's just obviously challenges around quality level of players. He's obviously already had Dallas Goedert play as well. I'm torn. Yeah. I think I'm going to go with Ross as well. Yeah, probably not going to be the game to watch this week, I would guess. Just to cover back, so Dave commented, he's watching along. Hey Dave, you guys hate the Dolphins D. We don't hate the Dolphins D, we just think there are far better options than the Dolphins D, just to clarify. Sorry.
I mean, and their performances have been hateful, quite frankly. As you all well know.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, just to cover off the injuries in this game then before we move on. So yeah, Kuplo ankle sprain. I imagine he will play, but again, just watch the practices. I think he did miss at least the first practice of this week, maybe yesterday's as well. Mark Andrews, he did not practice yesterday. It will be key to see what he does today, whether or not that'll be a good signal if he plays on it this weekend. No other injury issues for Ross. On the other side of the board, yeah, Josh Reynolds questionable, but he did play last week, so I think he should be good to go again this week. James Conner, yeah, he hasn't come back from I think his rib injury yet, so he was limited, so potentially will play. Damien Harris, I think he's been dealing with an illness. So again, just we'll have to keep an eye on that one as well. And then, that's it for Ben. So we'll go on to our next game then, which is the Gold Star Bowl. And it does feature, where's my jingles? Let's get that first. It does feature bucking the trend against Forge Flyers. Bucking the trend face off against Forge Flyers, two very winning teams this year. The Portsmouth division leading Forge Flyers with a 6-2 record and a 2-game win streak, facing off the current third place team in the Southampton division, but they do have a 5-3 record despite coming off a loss last week. Projections have it in favour of Forge Flyers, 82-77. Let's take a look at the lineup. So for Forge Flyers, Kadarius Toney and Gerald Everett come in, as does Chase Claypool, because it is officially bye-pocalypse for Forge Flyers, sending Latavius Murray, Cortland Sutton and Nick Chubb to the bench. All of their benches on a bye. Chris is going with 11 personnel this week, 1 running back, a tight end, and 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board, for bucking the trend, Romeo Doubs comes into the lineup, as does Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who returns from a bye. That sends Saquon Barkley and Deontay Johnson to the bench, who are also on bye, meaning the bucking the trend are going with 30 personnel this week. Wishbone, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Forge Flyers are 3-1 against Mike all time. And Chris, it's profiles to be an entertaining Forge Flyers bowl. Your team not quite at full strength. Mike's team obviously been dealing with injury and some bye plays of their own.
No, exactly. I have literally 3 players that started last week's game. The kicker and defense, who didn't start last week's game either. I'm going with a completely changed team here. This is a complete random dice roll. I'm going with matchups. I'm going with guys who I think is going to get volume. I mean, if Claypool and Toney turn up and actually do something, I'll be amazed, to be honest. I'll be quite happy. After being traded, it's difficult. But, these are guys who are playmakers on their day. So, but there's absolutely no way that
You got to have some fun with it. When you're in this kind of position, you may as well have fun with it, because if you try and do the smart thing and it doesn't play you off, you just annoy yourself. So you may as well just go, like me with Taysom Hill last week, go with the fun thing. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't, you still had fun doing it.
Exactly that. And, that's it. You're quite right. And we're playing some teams that are porous. Murray's playing Seattle at home, which fashioned to be slightly better than when they played him away. Waddle's got plenty of chance, especially with Tua on the other side to score points and sort of nullify that threat. Tennessee's defense has not been great through the air. Everett's one of only 2 or even 3 pass catchers in that LA Chargers offense that's fit.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we should see plenty of red zone with him. Yeah, Alvin Kamara's been fantastic over the last few weeks, but I am worried that Baltimore put him out of sight before and they can really do anything. Claypool, who knows what he'll do, but he's playing Miami, and as we've just said, Miami's defense is not very good. And then, down the bottom, kicker and defense in, Vikings in, playing Taylor Heineke. He loves turning the ball over, even if he is a bit of a hero. So, let's hope. Let's be hopeful. As for Mike's team, Mike is officially on the beach. He's in Australia. So we'll see if he even bothers to change his team at this point. Look, Swift is questionable, but, back in a limited fashion today, it says here, in practice. So you would like to think that he plays.
Swift is going to play. He's not going to play the full complement. I don't think you'd see that for the rest of the season, to be quite honest.
Williams is too bulletproof to do that, it seems. He's just too useful. But, Jacobs is in a good matchup if they can establish anything. As is Dobbs. Sam Brown it could be a tricky day for him. And Tua, well, he's playing away at Chicago now. I don't necessarily like it as much. If he was playing at home, but it's still fashions to see a reasonable amount of offense, and there's no doubt that he's turned himself around, or at least the coaching staff's turned him around into a reasonably viable quarterback this year, especially for fantasy purposes. So there's everything to like. Will Lutz and the Buccaneers D down the bottom there. Bucs D playing LA. Stafford's not been great this year. Their O-line is garbage.
Going east to west west to east as well.
Exactly that. So there's a definite chance that they can put up some points. So this is going to be a really fun, crazy, low-scoring potentially game. I'm going to back myself because I got to have fun with it. But there is every chance that Tua, Dobbs, Jacobs, Swift, they're all going to chip in to make my day a bit of not miserable, but less exciting.
Sure.
There's every chance that Mike's going to win this game.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to pick Mike. I agree. It's going to be a feisty game, and it's definitely not decidedly, Mike's going to win it pick. Obviously, for your team, Murray, Waddle, and Kamara really need to have a day, and then I think the other guys need to do something as well, which, to be fair, could absolutely happen. I just think, looking at the law of probability and things like that, I like the stream of Everett. Like you said, the Chargers are really banged up. The backup tight end or the other tight end, Parham's not playing either, so I think that's a good stream. And as you say, the other two are, a lottery ticket plays. And then for Mike's team, it's probably the best Mike's team's looked for quite some time. I would guess. Obviously, Jacobs had a really bad week last week, but he's been really good around that. Swift and St. Brown obviously have the potential to have good days. Dobbs could pop up as well, and obviously Tua's been great for Mike so far when he's played. So it's just a bit more stable on Mike's team. Not entirely stable by any means, but it's just a bit more stable. I don't really understand why the projection is quite so low for his team either. But that is what it is. I'm just going to lean with Mike's team there. Injury-wise, Swifty is questionable, but he will play. He's obviously battling through those injuries. And questionable with the hamstring, he will not play. All are questionable with the hamstring. He might make his first appearance for quite some time, so he could be playing. And then clean bill of your health, just obviously a lot of buys for your team, Chris. We'll go on to the penultimate game of the week then, which is the Ollie Bowl. It features You Are Gold against the Detonators. It's the Ollie Bowl. We've got You Are Gold, who are tied lead for their division at 3-5 against the palindromic Detonators of 5-3, who are trying to keep up in the Portsmouth division. They've obviously had a good few weeks, winning 2 on the trot. In fact, both these teams coming off wins. But Detonators are projected to win this one 97-85. Looking down the lineups, Justin Fields comes in for Geno Smith. And that is the only change, I believe, for the Detonators in terms of the key positions anyway. So they're rolling with 30 personnel, 3 running backs, and 2 wide receivers, Wishbone again. On the other side of the board for You Are Gold, they brought Jamal Williams in favour of Brandon Cooks. I believe that is the only change. So they're going with Wishbone, 30 personnel as well, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. The Detonators are 6-3 against You Are Gold. So which Ollie will prevail, Chris?
Well, I think that Ollie OGB has got a little guy called Devin Duvin on his bench down there. Who's going to get lots and lots and lots of targets, especially Mark Andrews is banged up. So I'd get him in there for Michael Pittman if you can. That's my only advice. But I think that this game is definitely skewed towards Detonators for sure, because there's absolutely no way I can bet against them, especially with those 3 guys in there, big dudes. Derrick Henry, big dude. Johnny Foreman, even bigger dude. And Travis Etienne is not quite such a big dude, but he's scoring big points at the moment. And, that is what's keeping that team going. Chris Olave is the absolute clear-cut number 1 receiver. We talked about Michael Thomas earlier on. He's there, prime and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins getting everything from Kyler Murray. Justin Fields is, ascending against, you heard it again, that rubbish Miami Dolphins defense. That's it. There's so much to like. There's just so much to like. So I can't see anything past this. On the other side, they got some. I say okay games for Cook and for Williams and Aaron Jones. They're all going to get plenty of volume, you would like to think. But the Bears D playing Tua and the guys, I'm not so sure about that. Plus, Tyler Boyd, who last time we spoke about him and slagged him off, he then went for 21 points. Is he going to do the same thing again? Didn't last week. I don't see it again. But hey, look, there's every chance in that offense. And Matt Stafford playing Tampa, as we said in the last rundown, we don't quite like that matchup as much. So I'm not hot on that. I'm hot on the Detonators because they're a hot team right now. They've got those 3 guys in their engine room that are firing on all cylinders, plus 2 receivers that are ascending, if not Hopkins, that is very much in the ascendancy, and Justin Fields, who is, he's playing in a way that's looking like Cam Newton-esque, shall we say, in the last couple of weeks. So going for Detonators. I'm locking Detonators. I'm good on Detonators.
I even wrote down you locked Detonators before you even said it. I could tell it was going in that direction, and I completely understand why. Because as you say, they're in really good form at the moment. The guys they've got, you'd be an absolute fool to pick against them, really, regardless of the opposition. I think Ollie's Gardner Beddoes is set up for a better week this week. They obviously came off a win last week. Like you say, maybe they swap out Pittman for Duvernay. There's definitely things to like about Ollie's team there. I mean, he's got the NFC North Dream Team at running back. With Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, and Jamal Williams. So you know what? There are worse players to contend with Derrick Henry and Dante Foreman, Travis Etienne. I think you take Ollie Bedette's side over the other, but that's certainly a good trio as well. So who knows? Maybe they can make an interesting day. Maybe the Detonators have a bit of a down day, but no, I think you're completely right. Looking at the players Ollie's got, especially with Dante Foreman, with Chuba Hubbard, he's already been ruled out. I think he's set for another workhorse role. But Detonators for me as well. Injury-wise for this one, so Brandon Cooks, he was inactive last night with a wrist and a case of being butthurt that he didn't get traded. And Chuba Hubbard, as I said, already been ruled out as well. So we'll go to the last game of the week then, which features Gridiron Gang against Pakistan. Gridiron Gang take on Pakistan in the final game of the week here. Both these teams coming off losses, to Pakistan in particular coming off 2 losses, but they still lead the division. Gridiron Gang do not. They've now lost that title to Forge Flyers. Gridiron Gang 5-3 against Pakistan 3-5. Gridiron Gang do have the projected win in this one, 97-83. So let's take a look at the lineups for Gridiron Gang. Travis Kelce comes back into the lineup from a bye. Joshua Palmer comes in as well. And the 9 points on the board there are courtesy of the Eagles D. So Gridiron Gang. Oh, sorry, and that sends Taysom Hill to the bench and Brian Robinson. So yeah, Gridiron Gang going with the 21 personnel this week, 2 running backs, tight end and 2 receivers. On the other side of the board for Pakistan, Justin Herbert comes back in the lineup from the bye, sending Jimmy Garoppolo to the waiver wire, and Curtis Samuel and Jacoby Myers come in favour of Benjamin and Wan'Dale Robinson, the latter of which is on a bye. So Pakistan are going with all wide this week, 5 wide receivers. It's the full Hail Mary formation. The history of this matchup: Gridiron Gang are 7-2 against Pakistan. Chris, will Pakistan still be leading the Winchester division after this game?
Going to be difficult, man. They're going to need a Hail Mary in this game because it's not started well for him. Only 2 points or 2 points and change for Devontae Smith on Thursday Night Football. Yeah, look, there's guys are out of nick. There are guys that are in offenses that are out of nick. They're going to need a hell of a performance from Herbert and Jefferson. Jacoby Myers has been playing better recently, that's for sure. But it's extremely touchdown dependent once again. I think the Colts will have a decent day, provided they don't get completely run over against New England. But aside from that, yeah, Devontae Adams, man, he's the one. I think this Raiders offense is absolutely garbage. And playing the Jags aren't as feeble on defense as one would think. I mean, and they're playing away as well, so that's it again, another plus for Jacksonville. But yeah, that's definitely the linchpin of that team that just hasn't been there all year. It really hasn't, and not a lot of places to turn to on the bench either. That's for sure. It would be helpful. It would be helpful if Cordarrelle Patterson came back this week, but yeah, again, I said that is not a given. And in any case, you come in for Curtis Samuel, would have thought. For your team, I like it. I mean, so you've got guys who are going to have plenty of volume. You look at Kelsey, McLaurin, Palmer this week, Kenneth Walker, as we've seen, Mixon. So there's so much to like there. We see Josh Allen playing the Giants, Kelsey playing Tennessee, as we said, not an unbelievable secondary this year, and certainly has always had a problem with putting any sort of pressure on any quarterback that they played against. That was the problem in the playoffs last year. But yeah, again, McLaurin's been a different guy since Heineke's taken over. Mixon's always there for carries. Made up his dominance last year, but certainly chipping in with useful points last week aside. And Kenneth Walker, again, great pickup. 9 points from the Eagles D on Thursday Night Football, not too bad either. So yeah, I think that I think your team is very much in the ascendancy here, Nath. I like it. Pat he's having to hang his hat on two guys, maybe 3 guys in the defense. You've got a better team throughout yours, and I have to say, I think you're going to win this game. I've been disappointed with Pat recently. I've backed him a couple of times. I'm not going to back him this week. And yeah, it's an unfortunate situation for Pat to find himself in. So yeah, I don't think that. I think this title challenge, or certainly his division challenge, may well take a stall this week.
You see what you've done to Chris, Pat? You've literally beaten the belief out of him in your team that he just does not want to pick your team to win.
I so want Pat to do well.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't meant to say that you don't want you, but he has beaten the belief out of you that you cannot even bring yourself to pick them, even if you were willing them to do well. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go with my team as well, just as you kind of say, law of probability. Looking at these two team seasons so far, my team, obviously the better of the two up to this point. The thing that's giving me pause with Pat's team is he's got, obviously, Herbert, Jefferson and Adams. Those 3 could potentially absolutely blow up between them because Herbert's facing an absolutely shocking Atlanta secondary. Jefferson's playing an absolutely shocking Washington secondary. And Adams, as you say, Jacksonville's defense, not necessarily the best, but certainly no slouch. But he's obviously the apple of Derek Carr's eye normally. And then whatever he gets from the other guys as well could potentially get him there. So that's what I'm worried about. On my side, like you said, it's kind of going with the volume plays. I'm taking, I guess the floor element to an extent. But looking down the roster, as you say, it should at least be a decent day between everyone. I have got some options on the bench. Kenyon Drake, if Gus Edwards sits, I could use that older commissioner rule potentially, the team changing rule possibly. I don't know. I might even bring him in over Mixon, who, as you said, he's been steady, but he's not been lighting up the box score this year. Obviously Alan Lazard as well there, but no, yeah, I'm going with my team here as well. Injury wise to Joshua Palmer, yeah, he should play this week. He's been cleared from his concussion. Bizarrely, the head coach Staley didn't say that he would necessarily play, but after being cleared, there's no real reason for him not to, especially with them missing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Alan Lazard, he's questionable at the moment with the shoulder injury that forced him to miss last week's game, but he's been practicing on a limited basis so far this week. On the other side of the board for Patterson, clean bill of health in the starting lineup, but as you say, Cordero Patterson on IR, possibly could come off that this week from that knee injury he suffered. So that does bring us to the end of the slate and the end of the show. Thank you for watching as always. I am not going to any NFL games this weekend on Sunday, so if you would like to come over and watch the games with me at my house, you are more than welcome to do so. Thanks for joining us as always, Chris.
You're more than welcome.
And yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. Have a good weekend. Best of luck in your matchups. And as always we know, unless you're playing me, of course, goodbye.